I'm Senator Joe Lieberman, and I'm glad you're watching Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight. But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about that.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug and Stephanie.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Here we are. We're back again.
Yes.
We didn't do this for so many years. We did it for so many years together.
Right.
Then we didn't do it for so many years.
Right.
Then we did it again. And then we didn't do it for so many years. And here we are doing it again, close together, 2 shows.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I'm so glad to have you back on my show. I'm so glad to be on your show.
I'm so
glad we're together because
I'm glad to be on your show
once
too.
again, as I mentioned last time we were together, so many people ask me, where's Stephanie? What happened to Stephanie? Especially the viewers that don't get the Steph show, who are in the city and in the farther suburbs, people out in Waukegan and people out in Hoffman Estates, which now get your show. They say, oh, you should do a show together. You know, people out in Buffalo Grove, they get your show.
We do it for you. We do it for you, the viewer.
We do it for the viewer, absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a cool thing. Last time we
And
talked
for,
about
and for us.
Yeah, well, we have a good time together,
Yeah.
and it's nice to be back together with you. And we will do this much more often. I want to tell you, we talked about matzo ball soup last time.
Yes, we did.
And someone sent in a note and said to me, "What kind of things do you add to your matzo ball soup?" And do you know what ingredients? So what ingredients go in matzo ball soup? Do you just let's talk about the chicken soup. Really, the chicken soup.
First, it's the chicken soup?
The chicken
Let's
soup.
see, water, bouillon cube. No, wait, not
What if you don't use bouillon? And you don't,
Chicken.
chicken, okay. Chicken and
Salt.
water.
Salt.
Okay, and what about vegetables?
We got to use the proverbial carrots, which are double as the little topping to the gefilte fish, and celery, and onion, and potatoes.
And
maybe.
can you think of a little white thing that looks like a carrot that might go in? Parsnip. Parsnip is something that makes a chicken soup have that chicken soup flavor. It adds even more than the other vegetables. Parsnip has a special flavor which changes chicken soup from tasting like oily soup into the flavored soup that you have. And of course the salt, you have to have a little salt. Or so for those who might have high blood pressure, a little salt substitute.
Yes.
But that definitely makes a difference. And another thing that people add is a little green stuff on top. Do you know what?
Parsley?
Parsley sometimes, but that isn't what I was thinking of.
Oh, no.
What else?
Gee, I don't know. I feel like I'm in school. Plant leaves? I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
People add a lot of
know?
different things to make their chicken soup different.
Yes.
So those are the things that we add to our chicken soup. And someone said to me, "Do you use parsnip?" That same person said, "Do you use parsnip?"
Now, is parsnip a Russian recipe or what?
Parsnip is
it's
a white vegetable similar to a carrot in its size. It grows under the ground,
But
and people use it. It is a common used ingredient in chicken
Did people
soup.
use that like 100 years ago in
I
the
believe
old
they
country?
did. I believe they did.
There you
Why is that? Do you know why?
No, why?
I'm going to tell you a story.
Oh, here
Let's
we go.
You ready for this?
Okay, ready.
So,
are you ready? Okay.
on Passover, let's
Yeah.
go to Passover for a second to start
Yes.
the story. On Passover,
Yes.
one of the things on the Seder plate is generally a green vegetable. People use parsley or celery, right? And that's called the karpas, and we dip it in salt water. That represents the holiday of spring, and we dip it in salt water. But in Europe, in Russia, they never used those two things. And what they used were potatoes or onions. So why do you think the tradition is that in Russia, back in the old country, that people used potatoes or onions instead of a green vegetable, which is kind of the universal thing that people use? And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because winter runs much later, especially in Russia. What part of Russia is the coldest part of Russia? Do you know?
Siberia.
Siberia, right? So
That's
a
where
lot of
that's where the prisons are.
yes, that's where. So that's where many Jews lived, in the colder part. And
Now, why
the
is
problem
that?
was in springtime
Yeah.
for us, when we had these green vegetables growing, that we could cut parsley
Yeah.
or we could grow celery. They couldn't do it,
Right,
Because
so
it was too
they-
cold. So what could they grow? They could grow vegetables that grew underground.
Yes.
And the vegetables that grow underground were potatoes
Yes.
and onions. So it became a tradition for Russian Jews
Yes.
to use potatoes or onions as karpas, as the vegetable to dip in salt water. So now I'm going to come back to parsnip. For winter, when do people make chicken soup? They don't make it in the middle of the summer generally. They make it in the winter time when it's cold.
Yeah.
When people lived in Europe, the Jews, and chicken soup was a staple at the Shabbos table or at the Jewish home for dinners. They didn't have celery to add and stuff. They had to add carrots, parsnip, and onions and potatoes because they grew underground and the winter ran later. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
See?
Now we know where those recipes come from.
Yeah, we do.
And why.
Yeah, and once again, if you want to send in a question or a recipe for Stephanie and me on the next time that we meet, you certainly may send it to info@tvrabbi.com, and we will certainly try and bring it up together, or you can send it to Steffi's address at
Yes, Steffi, S as in Sam, TEPHEE, 234@AOL.com.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
So, since we met last time, what's new with Stephanie?
I don't know. What do you want to know? Ask me
I guess
anything.
over the years in living in, you lived, I think, when you were in California, you lived in Sacramento, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sacramento. You lived in Las Vegas for a long time. You grew up and you've been living in Chicago most of your life.
Yep.
What do you find attractive about these cities, and what do you think is your favorite thing about each city that you lived in?
Ooh, good. Right off the bat, my favorite thing about Las Vegas is the weather and the sun. It's sunny.
Don't you find the summer too hot there?
Well, when it gets to 117 degrees, that's hot.
Yeah.
It is dry, so like 90 over there does not feel like 90 here because the humidity really makes a difference. And I didn't really notice that until I was there, and it's very pleasant. The weather's terrific. And Sacramento, I was only there less than a year, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
My favorite thing about Chicago is roots run deep, just like the parsnip in Russia. You have generations, and again, you don't really notice that. For me, I didn't really notice that until I was away, and you come here, such a difference. Las Vegas is the polar opposite. I mean, it's like, more than one generation is like a really big deal. There's no family life.
You and
really.
I have something similar.
I shouldn't say that. There's some family life, but nothing like here,
Right.
where you can really develop this whole network. You can do that anywhere, but I mean...
But your roots are here to
roots
start.
run deep. I mean, you come here and you can see it, whereas if you go to Las Vegas, I think, or even any other, or a lot of other cities, maybe, well, anyways, it's just something you notice when you're away from it.
Did you look into hosting TV when you were living in Vegas?
Las Vegas does not have cable access. However, I did do shows on my own in the living room with a co-host for a little while, then mostly on location, and then I sent it off to Los Angeles, and now Los Angeles only takes the one local, at least the one that I sent it to. I want to tell a really quick story I just remembered. When I was in Las Vegas, I took my camera and I was doing video of canine. They had 4 states and they met in Las Vegas, and the police departments brought their canine dogs, and I do these really fantastic demonstrations. It's free. And
Cool.
Yeah, it was. And I walked around the back. I walked around all over because that's what I like to do with my camera, which you do.
Absolutely.
It's so much fun. You never know what you're going to see. And I went to the back and I saw like another little camera crew. This is in the alley, in like a little parking lot behind the Orleans hotel. It's like 1 story. So I immediately took my camera out because you don't know. So as I'm getting closer, I see that the camera crew, which is facing me, has the camera on, will look like an old man coming out of a van. And so I'm getting my camera focused on it, expecting any minute somebody to come by and tell me, get away, because you're in the shot. But that did not happen. And it turned out remember Siegfried and Roy?
Sure.
Okay, so was it Roy? He was almost killed by the tiger.
By the tiger.
Right, and this was his first appearance.
Wow.
In public, and I didn't know that. And
So you got that on camera?
I got it on camera, which is just wonderful, especially if you live in Los Angeles.
You weren't able to get close enough to talk to him, though.
I did not go. I probably could have if I'd really wanted to.
You didn't want to interrupt.
And I remember he was walking away from me towards them, and I was very close to him. And it was, you almost wanted to cry because
Yeah,
when you live in
sure.
Las Vegas, a lot of these people here, it's hard to describe, but it is like a little community. I know Las Vegas is an international city, but still there's a thing about it that's very local, very Southwestern and small town-ish. And it was personally just like, wow. And then, and then to come out of this, you didn't even know he's making a public appearance was terrific. And then the thing is I went up around by the reporters, and I was like videotaping as they were talking. Siegfried and Roy were there to talk about the dogs and stuff. And I had a hard time hearing, so I went up closer, and I was right up behind the ear of the reporter in front of me, and that reporter was Robin Leach. So it was really cool.
You're right with Robin Leach. Huh?
And so I said, Robin, can you do a little intro like I did a show called Las Vegas Today. So I said, can you just say, I'm Robin Leach and you're watching Las Vegas Today? And he graciously did that immediately, so professionally, just Johnny on the spot. And
that's so cool.
It was very cool to meet Robin Leach outside of, the entertainment type of, persona.
That's one of my favorite things is if I can't interview someone, will you do a promo for me like you did?
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. I love that story. That's a great story.
Hope it wasn't too long.
No. Did you frequent the casinos, or did you just go like a tourist around to look at them while you lived there?
Well, you know what? A little bit here and there. For the first 2 years, I would play blackjack, although I'm not much of a player. But I mean, I would gamble maybe $20.
No, that's
and maybe a few times a year. And then after 2 years, I didn't do any of it at all.
What was your favorite tourist spot? Do you think, if you said this is
Right.
the best tourist spot or the most beautiful tourist spot in Vegas?
Two different things come to mind. One is downtown, which is, especially around different holidays like St. Patrick's Day, surprisingly there's a lot of babies out and families, and they have that light show overhead, and it's fun. And then as far as hotels, most of them are pretty fantastic. I like the Venetian. It's very.
I love the Venetian.
It's very like. And then also the Paris. When you're walking down,
Paris
it
is
feels like you're
beautiful, too.
outside, even
Yeah.
though you're inside. So those two.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. I've had the same experiences as you have in such things. So I enjoy, running into people at random like that and getting to do.
Well, who did you
promos
run
for the
into that you were like, oh, let me get you on camera?
Oh gosh, so many. I've done it with reporters also. I was in a news conference with Mayor Daley a few years ago when he was still mayor, and I was with all the reporters in the conference, and Jay Levine was talking to me, and I had been on TV with him before, and he and I had really the first time I went to Benjamin Netanyahu, he tried to talk to me. I was the only one allowed to have a camera in there. They wouldn't let the reporters from the networks have cameras, so he tried to talk me into giving him my tape, or he said, "I'll buy it from you,"
Oh,
so
how did you feel? Like you're the only one that he's going to talk to. The president, the prime minister of Israel is only going to talk to you. How did you feel?
Whatever, it was cool. He was former prime minister at that time before he was reelected. But the thing Jay Levine did, he did a promo for me just right outside there after meeting with the mayor.
Hi, I'm Jay Levine. You're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
And there are things like that. Jamie Gertz, having an actress like Jamie Gertz, who I've known since she was a little girl, and then having her come to Chicago and say, I want you to MC my appearance in Chicago when my movie is opening.
Nice.
So when she asked me to do that, I was very honored to be able to do it. And then she did a show with me, and she made it a point to take pictures with my daughter, and she was very nice. Obviously, her brother and I are still good friends, and I don't see her very often. But for her to come to Chicago and ask me to do that, that was an exciting thing. And it's things like that make doing TV. Besides, for the viewers, for ourselves in satisfaction, to get those people that you really love to have on or always wanted to have on, to finally be able to hook up with them.
Have camera will travel. It's sort of like your passport. Like, oh, I've got a camera, so let me in. Well, it used to be a lot easier.
Yeah. It used to be. So Coming back to Chicago, what made you decide to come back to Chicago? Did you just miss Chicago so much?
I did. You know, my family moved out there, so I moved out there too.
And we have something in common with that, by the way. I want you to know,
Yeah.
my whole family moved out to Los Angeles.
Yes.
Your whole family moved out to Vegas,
Yeah.
and we kept our roots in Chicago,
Yeah.
even though the family left. And
The family's still there.
family's still there.
Yeah.
Family's still there, and
in Las
it's
Vegas
great.
too.
It's great to visit, but living here there's no comparison.
Yeah, I agree. It's very living oriented as compared to visiting oriented. So, you know, I say home is where the heart is, and, you know, your family isn't, just because your family's not here.
But you have your son here. You're not
Yes.
by yourself or anything
Right,
like
yeah.
that. So
my son is
that's
16. We
special.
talked about him previously
Yeah,
on another show.
yeah.
So he's a junior as we're taping in 2013.
Yeah. So do you think that schooling is better here in the Chicago area than it was
Yes.
in Vegas?
Yeah.
Schooling.
In a
too?
word, yes.
Yeah.
There's a
okay.
couple good schools there, but generally not the best.
And what do you think?
Well, in the suburbs here, it's pretty good, and I guess there's some good magnets.
So you
schools
like
in
the north?
Chicago.
You like the near north suburbs of Chicago?
Yeah. Well, you know, I guess Stevenson High School in
Buffalo Grove. Or it's actually
Lincolnshire.
Lincolnshire, whatever. Yeah. But
Now,
border Buffalo Grove.
wait, where is it? Is it Lincolnshire?
And it's the border of
Okay, it's
Lincolnshire,
around there.
Buffalo Grove, right there. Yeah.
Okay. Did your show air?
It
in
does,
that area?
it does, it
okay,
does.
so hi everybody. You guys have a good school, as you know.
No,
This is
it
all
is
over
a
the
good school.
place.
Buffalo
There's
Grove
a
High
lot
School is
of-
a good
you
school.
know,
Niles North is a
yeah.
good school. Niles West is a good school.
There's a lot of
There are
good schools here
schools
in all the suburbs. You know,
Highland
after
Park, Highland Park and Deerfield, both good schools.
Schaumburg,
Sure,
Wheeling.
yeah. So there are a lot of good schools
Yeah.
out there in the suburbs, and there are a lot of good schools in the city too. But there are a lot of schools that aren't so good in the city. So you have to get into the good school you want to go to. And some of the magnet schools are amazing, like Northside Prep, amazing school. So you never know. What do you think your most memorable?
My hands were cold, by the way.
What your most memorable school experience? What do you remember? You graduated from Niles North yourself,
Okay,
and
I
now
did.
your son. What's your most memorable thing about school,
Wow.
elementary school or high school? You went through the system. What do you think?
Okay.
What made you happy about growing up and going to school here?
Well, I just thought of a story.
Okay.
It was just kind of interesting to me, at least. In 7th grade, and if you went to junior high with me, you may recall this, the teacher and I wore the same shirt on the same day. And she didn't say anything at the time, and I didn't either, which shows you how times change. But and then it was an English teacher, and then she wrote on the board, like, a sentence. Something is referring to us. And yet still not acknowledging it. Whatever. That just stands out in my mind.
That's a funny story.
I have-
Hey,
what?
famous football player went to school with you who was on the Bears.
right.
That's kind of a cool thing.
Yes.
That's kind of a cool thing. He and his wife both.
Novoselsky.
Yeah.
Andrea Novoselsky.
Yeah.
Andrea's the wife. Hi.
Yeah.
Andrea's been on the show.
Andrea, I know very well. We're in touch.
They're such a nice family.
They're both.
I'm
in touch with both.
They're so
of them.
nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
And
Cool. By the way, they have like a little display for him at the school.
yeah, they do. If you walk into Niles North,
Yeah.
they do. They have a little display with
Yeah.
his jersey and the whole
Yeah,
thing.
the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Very nice.
You know what's interesting is my son goes there, and I told him, someone I went to school with played for the Vikings and
The Bears.
yeah. No,
the
he played
Bears.
for the Vikings.
He was on the Bears too.
Oh, I think he played for the Bears like a year or two.
For 2 years.
Okay, and then I think he's with the Vikings.
Went to the Vikings to finish.
Okay. And so whatever, my son, my son's a teenager. I guess it's like that with all teenagers. They're like, okay, whatever. And then one day he comes home, he's like, oh, there's this thing at school. Did you go to school with him? Wait, did I just say that?
I told you that. You don't remember. You know what? The new coach of the Bears is Jewish. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
The new coach of the Bears is hired.
And
He's
he's
coming from Canada.
Canadian, eh?
And he is the first coach of the Bears who is Jewish ever.
Wow. He's probably one of the few Jewish coaches in pro football.
Few. There's some owners who are Jewish, and but he is one of the few. Yeah. So that's an interesting Jewish trivia thing.
I bet you want to get him on your show.
I would love to have him on my show.
So let's put that out there.
Let's put that out there.
Coach.
We want you.
Yes. You'll be on Taped with Rabbi Doug.
Absolutely.
And also Stuff Show.
And that's right. Let's do it together.
Yes. Okay.
So that would be a very nice thing. There's other people. Like, I love having news people on my show. I've had Carol Marine on my show before.
Hi, I'm Carol Marine, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
And yeah, she's great.
I'd like to
She's
meet her.
great. So having news people and politicians also, you know, not only Mayor Daley before, but I've had people like Terry O'Brien.
I'm Terry O'Brien, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
And I've had the Todd Stroger.
I'm Cook County Board President Todd Stroger, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
So many
Barack
politicians.
Obama.
President Preckwinkle of the Cook County Board, Tony Preckwinkle.
I'm Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
Well, I've had her on my show. It's nice to have politicians on.
It is.
I've
So
had
you
Jan,
can compare them.
Jan Schakowsky on.
I'm Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
And,
She's Jewish.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. That's true too. But
She's been around a
so's
long
Carol, so's
time.
Carol Marine. So's Carol Marine.
Carol Marine is Jewish?
Yes.
I did not know that. I did not know that. Did you know that?
There you go.
I thought
And-
she was Irish
No,
or something.
she's Jewish. She's Jewish.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, she's a big supporter of Keshet. Big supporter of Keshet. I've run into her many times at Keshet functions.
What's Keshet?
Keshet
I
is
should know that, but-
Keshet is the Jewish school for children with disabilities and developmentally disabled children.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful school, wonderful program. Their main campus is in Northbrook, but they have outreach programs in Ida Crown and in some of the other day schools for kids with special needs. And
Is Ida Crown one school or several
Ida
schools?
Crown is just one high school.
Okay.
Just one high school. Then there's Erie Crown, which is a separate school.
Okay.
Just like the theater is named after the same person as the school is. The Crown family, very, very philanthropic and supporting in the Jewish community,
Have
naming
you ever,
schools. And
kind of going the opposite direction, have you ever met Sam Zell?
I have not. Sam Zell is someone I would love to have on my show.
Really?
He's on that list. I'd also like to have the Ricketts on my show, the owners of the Cubs. So someone just
yeah.
told me I
Wow.
look like one of them. So
What's their intentions with the Cubs? You think they'll hold on to it?
well, not only do I think they'll hold on to it, they're working right now to really try and expand advertising and things so that they can fund all the things they want to do to preserve and remodel, in some ways, Wrigley Field to make it last longer as the
nice.
historic park that it is.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a good thing. You know, when lights first came to Wrigley Field, I was completely against lights. I said,
Wow.
oh, Wrigley
How could
Field
you?
is the one place that when you go, you're always going to a day game. The sun is out, it's beautiful. And I'm not sure if I've ever gone to a night game. Maybe I went once to a night game. I don't remember. But I loved the daytime at Wrigley Field. I was against it. But I'm not against it anymore because I feel like I've been at concerts at night at Wrigley Field. So I'm glad there's
Yeah, there you
lights.
go, yeah.
You know, but
I think when they
the change is hard.
After they make some changes, they're going to have a celebration, and on that day, when you go to the game, it's going to be free matzo ball day. Bet you'd like that.
Okay.
Okay, well, whatever.
But it's I think it's okay to do because you don't want these places, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want a place like Wrigley Field, which is so historic. It's
Yeah.
always had natural grass. It's one of the few places that never changed to turf, and it's 100% natural
Well,
grass.
hopefully they'll make some changes where it could preserve it for another 100 years.
It's the only place with a hand scoreboard where someone
still.
a man is still inside changing the scoreboard.
You
It's
gotta
not
interview
electric.
him.
I would love to. That would be
Maybe
cool.
you could do the interview inside the
Inside the
scoreboard.
scoreboard, there
and then
you
you
go.
could have the camera like facing out.
There you go. I'll
and
have to call the Ricketts and ask them
put
to
your arm
rearrange
out
that for
there,
me.
and you could be like, "Here's me putting up the score."
That would be kind of cool. But
Iran.
that's something.
We gotta talk about Iran, or you have to talk about.
Well, okay. So you want to go to Iran? So we were talking about what's in the news right now.
Yeah.
How do we stop? How do we stop Iran from making a nuclear bomb? Everyone knows that.
I don't know if that's possible.
That a nuclear Iran would be a menace to the whole world.
And what about North Korea?
Well, North Korea is smaller, though. You know, you got to think about
but a bomb's a
where
bomb.
No, there's no question. There's no question. But you gotta consider who's the threat. North Korea is not threatening the world. It's a threat to to their region. Iran is a threat to the world. Iran says. Kill everyone in the United States. Kill
Really?
everyone in Israel. You know, they want to. They are the largest sponsors of terrorism in the world. Iran pays for terrorism with their money, and they have a lot of oil and a lot of money. And you know, the embargoes have hurt Iran immensely. So they say that's not their intention. That's not their intention. But how can you trust? You know, a regime that sponsors terrorism.
Yeah.
So it's a scary thing, and I'm glad you brought it up. It's something that we all have to consider and worry about.
You know, Iran's, to me, it's kind of interesting because they are a Middle Eastern country. However, the women have a lot of rights They're a lot of equal. They're in politics. They're in government, in industry, in education, everything.
Right, but you also have to understand that in Iran, those women who are in those positions are only in them. They have to follow Islamic law completely. They have to keep their faces covered and all the things that they do according to their Islamic law, or they're ejected from those positions. And the girls are only educated to a limit in Iran because of the Islamic law.
Yeah, but there's women there that own businesses.
Right. I'm saying there are exceptions to the rules as long as those people comply. They
with
can
the customs.
Do that. Right, with their customs and traditions and stuff. So, but once again, they are, if anybody doesn't comply, they're either thrown in jail or killed. So it's a scary place.
But Iran also has a large and old Jewish enclave, don't you?
Yes, they do. There's a large Jewish community there, and
how do they feel?
They're isolated. They're not allowed to leave the country, and if they get permission to leave the country, their families are held hostage.
I believe that.
Their families are held hostage.
Now, is that like a standard procedure?
In Iran, it is. In Iran, it is.
No, what does that mean? They're held hostage.
Which means if they don't return, that their families will be thrown in jail or killed.
Now, do the families live in the house? They just continue
maybe under guard. I'm not sure exactly how it works when they're gone, but that's how it works. And if the person doesn't return,
if a country doesn't like a certain group, you'd think they'd want them to leave.
Everything is leverage. You got to understand if you have these people in your country, you've got leverage to say, if you do this to me, I'm going to do this to them. So there is that leverage that they hold on to by keeping these people there. Plus, some of them are great educators and doctors and stuff like that they don't want to lose.
That'd be interesting, if the leader of Iran has a Jewish doctor.
Who knows?
And surgeon.
I doubt it. But one of the things about Iran also with this whole situation,
I wouldn't be surprised actually.
The Jewish people in Iran is that these people sometimes they go to visit their relatives who are in Israel and everything. Like they come back and then they get accused of being spies and they themselves get thrown in jail. So it's scary any way you look at it. Iran is not a place to visit.
I have a great idea.
And a lot of people would like to get out of Iran if they could.
Okay, so like if you're Jewish and you live in Iran and you want to go visit Israel, just take one of the Iranian politicians with you, and you guys can go on a little tour together.
Sure.
It'd be sort of like an enlightening experience for all involved. Like they have, what do they call those exchange programs?
I don't think
they can do with the politicians.
I don't think they're going to be doing that. Let's bring
Would
some
that be
terrorism
cool?
into it.
Wait, aren't you going to the summit in
So yeah, I had mentioned that. I mentioned in Washington. You're talking about?
Oh, Washington. Okay.
In Washington.
Now, what's that called?
The APAC Summit,
Okay,
the
now
American Israel Policy Conference. We talked about that last time we were together a little bit.
Now, who's going to be there?
So, as I mentioned, the Prime Minister, the head of state of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, President Barack Obama, and most of Congress. Most of Congress is there. So that's why one of the great things about being there is that I get to interview so many congressmen, so many senators, and talk to them. I had Mark Kirk on my show.
I'm Senator Mark Kirk, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
Two years ago there. I've had, a lot of senators and a lot of congressmen on my show over the years. Bob Dole, I became very good friends with him. He's out of office now.
I'm Congressman Robert Dole, and you're watching Tape with Rabbi Doug.
Gun control.
Gun control.
What do you want to say about gun control?
Is going to be talked about, certainly.
Okay. What do you think?
Well, I'm all for gun control. Okay. I am so anti-gun.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I recently officiated at a funeral of someone who was a gun collector, and in talking to them, they didn't want me to mention it. They told me about it, but they said, don't mention it because it's a bad thing.
And speaking of which, we can't mention anything else now because we're at the end of the show.
Done.
I can't believe it.
I know, it just goes by so fast.
Yes.
But listen, I want to thank you all for being with us. Remember, you want to check out my website, www.tvrabbi.com, where you can also watch former shows on the web. And if you want to email me, info@tvrabbi.com, I will always get back to you.
Yeah.
Stephanie's information is...
I'm Stephanie Stone. We'll see you next time. Bye.
All right. See you next time. Shalom, everyone.
Bye.
And I'm talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug on your TV show. Well, he's the rabbi for me. anytime you need.
This has been a Taped with Rabbi Doug production.